Hey there, welcome to another episode of Monday Designs. I'm your host Monday. This video is part of my Top 10 series, and today we're going to be talking about my top 10 NES games.
Number 10.
City Connection was released in 1985 by Jackal. It's a wonderful game where you just run around and simply just drive to try to change the color of the track from one color to the other while avoiding all of the obstacles and the police and stuff. It was just a wonderful game that I actually enjoyed in the arcades, but it was just so much fun when I got to bring it home on the NES, and I didn't really notice that much of a difference between how it played on the arcade and how it played at home.
Number 9.
Gunsmoke was released in 1985 by Capcom. This is another arcade port that came directly to the home via the Nintendo. It's just a great game. You get to run around, you get to play the cowboy, running around, shooting people, and shooting all the bad guys and being the hero. It had a very innovative way of moving around and slowly progressing upward with the B and the A buttons, controlling where you got to shoot. It was just a really fun game. They did an excellent job with it on the Nintendo.
Number 8.
Rad Racer 2 was released in 1990 by Squaresoft. Now, I definitely like Rad Racer 2 a lot more than I like Rad Racer 1. The music's a little bit better. Being able to choose whichever racing style that you want to use, be it the rally car or just the regular car, or the Formula car. It was just a lot of fun. I feel that the music was probably a little bit better in Rad Racer 2. It is, again, another game that I highly suggest. I actually, last year, discovered that I didn't have Rad Racer 2 inside of my collection, and went on to price charting and paid whatever price it was and got it for my collection.
Number 7.
Section Z was released in 1987 by Capcom. This was a side-scrolling shooter where you played a guy in powered armor or something like that, and it was just a really good game. Honestly, I think that it's better than the arcade. When they ported it over to the NES, the music was always really good. And it is just a really fun game. It's definitely worth checking out and looking into this game.
Number 6.
Rad Racer was released in 1987 by Squaresoft. This is one of my favorite racing game series. I know that it's a little bit on the cheesy side and a little dated, and there's a lot of people that think Outrun is a lot better than Rad Racer, but I just have a lot of fond memories of this game and how much fun it was to sit around with my friends back in the day and just see how far we could get and have competitions like that.
Number 5.
Contra was released in 1987 by Konami. It's just a great couch co-op shooter game where shooting platformer where you just run through the jungles and the armies and tons of guys. And there are some vertical scrolling areas where you jump quite a bit, but it's a staple in any NES collection. You must have this game. I remember back when I used to work at a used game store, and it was one of the few games that we actually sold for almost $6 back when you could buy copies of Nintendo games for like 95 cents on average.
Number 4.
Jackal, released in 1986 by Konami, is another couch co-op game that I have lots of fond memories of playing with, the other kids in the neighborhood and playing two-player mode, going through, just trying our best to get as far as we possibly could.
Number 3.
Pro Wrestling was released in 1986 by Nintendo. Now, I know that it's not a very great game, but I have, again, wonderful memories of this game. Playing, with friends, getting up Saturday mornings after spending the night and watching some cartoons. And as soon as the cartoons were over and we were done eating our cereal, we would play this game over and over and over again. And it was basically winner stays and loser trades off. It was just a great game, lots of fond memories, and it's actually a lot of fun.
Number 2.
Life Force was released in the US in 1998 by Konami. This is one of the quintessential shooters for the system. I would almost say that it would be required for you to have it in your collection if you like shooters at all and own an NES. The couch co-op, again, is just stellar, just like with almost everything with the NES. Again, huge memories of playing with friends and using the options and going through, and the upgrade system was just a wonderful joy to use. Definitely check the game out.
Number 1.
The Guardian Legend. This is my favorite Nintendo game. It's very underground. It does not have a lot of press about it. It was released in 1989 by Compile. And actually it's released in 1988, I believe, by Compile. But this game was just beyond everything. It had shooter, it had Zelda-style adventure. It had upgrades that you would get from bosses like Mega Man. It's just such a great and wonderful game. It's definitely worth your time. You should be able to pick it up for relatively cheap. I say relatively cheap, it's like anything basically that's under $20 for a Nintendo game. I spent lots of time on this game, and it's an absolute joy. Like I said, it is my number 1 Nintendo game. Alright, now that we've gone through my top 10, I'd like to touch on what you should be looking for when you actually get this system, and what you should possibly try to look out for, some of the pitfalls of collecting for this system and stuff like that. First off, you definitely want to find an NES that has not yellowed and doesn't have any rattling or anything else like that on the inside. Working on a Nintendo is actually not very hard at all if you have basic soldering skills. I recently went through and replaced all of the capacitors, the voltage regulator, and the 4 diodes on my NES front loader. A lot of times a Nintendo game won't play in the system, and it's usually either the NES 10 chip, which I've actually gone through and disabled mine, or it's the connector is dirty. If the connector is too dirty, you can actually go online and find another 72-pin connector. They're relatively easy to get your hands on. You might not get a hold of an official one, but as long as there's not too much resistance or anything like that electrically to block the signals from the cartridge, you should be fine. It's a very robust system. You definitely need to get a hold of an official AC adapter. I wouldn't really care too much about picking up an RF adapter unless you just can't hook it up that way. Hooking it up versus with composite is vastly superior. It's just a really easy system to work on and keep it up and running. Now the top loaders, I'm not too much of a fan of the top loader system. I prefer the classic look of the front loader. I do prefer the dog bone controller over the regular controller, but if you're going to pick up the system, try your best to find like the gray zapper, 2 controllers. Any of the other stuff is just like kind of frill. Nintendo came out with a lot of additional controllers for this. Now, if you can get your hands on an NES Advantage, I would definitely try to get your hands on that. Any of the official Nintendo controllers that have the turbo function are definitely worth it as well. Well, that's it for this episode of Mundane Designs. I'm your host, Mundane. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed making it. If you like what you see, you can support me and my channel on Patreon by clicking on the links below. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and have a wonderful day.